Hello, friends, and welcome to Light Warrior Sessions, Episode 5, Mindful Parenting with Tejal Patel. Tejal V Patel is a former divorce attorney turned mindfulness, meditation, and Ayurveda advocate for moms and kids. She's the host of the Time in Talks podcast, speaker and author of Meditation for Kids, 40 Activities to Manage Emotions, Ease Anxiety, and Stay Focused. In the last decade, through her Yoga Birdies and Mindful Beginnings programs, she has educated hundreds of teachers, parents, and children, including her own, how to playfully infuse mindfulness, meditation, and yoga into classrooms and homes. Her fun, practical, and simple way of infusing mindfulness and meditation into the lives of modern families in a way that is understandable to kids truly sets her apart from the traditional self-help crowd and makes her a go-to expert for modern moms seeking to raise the first generation of mindful, meditating kids and the next generation of peace leaders. This Light Warrior session is brought to you by Alaska Center for Spiritual Living. ACSL is an empowered, uplifting, inclusive community whose mission is to teach spiritual transformation with grace and ease. Now let's dive into today's episode. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Today I am talking with Tejal Patel, the queen of mindful parenting. I'm so excited that you are here talking with me today. You have a really special place in my heart because your work helped me become a better mom. And what's better than that, you know? So I'm just excited to be able to share you and your work with more people through this. So thank you. And can you tell everybody where you live? Where are you right now?
Oh, this is such an honor to be here with you, Blaze. I'm on the complete opposite side of the United States from you. I'm in South Jersey, so I live right outside of Philadelphia, and I've been born and raised an East Coast girl.
Nice. Yeah, I realized I said good morning, and I'm like, oh, it's not morning for her.
Yes, it's like afternoon.
Yeah. So I don't know how I found you originally, but somehow on Instagram, and then I ended up, I think, being a part of your first online course, the Mindful Mama course.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I believe my kids, they might have been 2 and 3. Yeah. So mine are back to back. So when they were both toddlers, it was just insane. Yeah. And your work helped so much I especially remember the resets, just ways to come back to sanity, basically.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, now they are 8 and 9, and we recently got your book, Meditation for Kids. And so we've been doing meditations from that, and it's so fun, and I'm just so grateful to have you in our lives. And are you working on a new book? Did I see something about that?
Yes, I am. It's so funny. This is a book that I was originally working on before I got the deal for this book. So it's like I'm kind of going back to what I thought was going to be book 1, but it's now book 2, which is, I mean, the universe had that plan for it. But yeah, I've been working on that book, and it's been a slower writing process for this book. But I trust the process. But yeah, it's going to happen.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, it's so funny how things just work out the way they do. Yeah, so the whole point of these interviews, it was really spurred on by how crazy 2020 has been. And I know that I have so many tools to come back to center, to help myself through rough times. And I've really been struggling off and on. And so I just kept thinking of all the people that don't have tools. I had to find these all on my own in adulthood, and it was not easy. So I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for people to find healing tools to get through a lot of the things that are coming up right now. And, parenting, I'd say, is the biggest challenge in my life.
Yeah.
And so, I'm so grateful that you are willing to share some tips with us. And I'd love to know, I don't really know how what made you decide to get into this field? Because I know you have kids now, but I don't think when I met you, you did.
I was, I think my first course I did when I was pregnant with my first. And so interestingly enough, I've always been a highly sensitive child. And so it's interesting because when I was a divorce attorney and I was doing all collaborative divorce and I was doing mediation, when I was talking to my clients about their kids, I was intuitively aware of like when they were talking about anxiety and some of their kids were getting diagnosed with it, like anxiety, because I was a child that experienced anxiety, but it was undiagnosed, a lot of that triggered the awareness that I had this as a child. I knew I had this and it just carried with me into my teens and my 20s. And I was in my mid 20s at that time. So I just had this keen awareness that even though I didn't have kids, I had this strong pulling of just from my own experience of how this is so needed and necessary. And whether it's divorce or not, there's just like COVID, right? Pandemic, like there's just going to be big life transformations and changes and catalysts in our children's life that is going to, I think all humans, not just our children, but it's going to push us into our uncomfort zone. And so it just became something that I felt like the seed was just planted in my subconscious of like, this is what I'm meant to do. And it started very organically from like kids yoga classes to then eventually, expanding and being like, I really need to educate teachers and bring this awareness into classrooms. So then it evolved into that. And then when I was on that journey of becoming a parent myself, I think then I found the confidence of, okay, well now I want to start bringing this to parents, because the reality is this wisdom, whether you're a parent or not, is a necessity. It's just that, it was just packaged in a way now, like, okay, how do we make it accessible for parents? Because we have a new set of demands on us with our time, with our energy. It's a different dynamic. And so that first course, the Mindful Mama experience, was done through my pregnancy and then also like the newborn phase. And it was just that keen awareness of also like, how do we transition this idea of like mindfulness in ways that is accessible to a busy parent or a busy individual that doesn't have a lot of time. So that's kind of how that came about. And then as my children have grown and as my work has grown, it's now become this realm of like bringing it to the children now, helping parents and teachers bring these skills in like a way that's systematic to infuse into our children's lives.
I love that. I love it. Yeah. And I think too, especially when they're younger, they're just taking all their cues off of us. I mean, they always are. And so that's why I really enjoyed the work on myself. It's like the calmer I was, the easier it was for me to deal with, their ups and downs as they were figuring out how to be a little human here and their boundaries and all of that. So, and I still use a lot of those tools unrelated to them, even just in my general life. I was just talking to a friend of mine, telling him that he and I should use meditations from your Meditation from Kids book.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, we're not kids, but there's some really fun things in there.
Yeah, they're all rooted in the science and wisdom of Ayurveda and meditation and yoga. It's just translated in a way that's fun and accessible for kids. But the tools, right, like the resets and things like that, it's meant like you can teach it for kids. I think it's actually more fun to do it playfully because it makes it fun for us and not so daunting and scary. Like meditation and mindfulness doesn't become so scary.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. And I know you're a playful person too, so I could see that you enjoy that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And the kids and I started getting into a routine where before bed we would go into like my meditation room and they each had a candle and we would like light a little candle. They would each pick out a crystal and then we would pick a meditation from your book and do it together. And, my daughter is quite magical and like the most emotionally stable person I've probably ever met. My son is woo, he's like me, where there's like the impulses and just really something's a big deal for 10 seconds and then we've moved on.
Yeah.
So with him, it's been so much more helpful and important to give him some ways to deal with anger. We've even done some tapping together and, so it's just so, I feel so excited to be able to share tools with my kids. Like that wasn't a part of my childhood. And it's just awesome. And to share them with my mom too,
Yeah, you said that multi-generational that you're,
yeah.
and many of us haven't, right? Like whether, like there are some people that I've like, it's been the anomaly, and they're like, oh, I learned these tools when I was younger, but they were never taught, like even those people who learned as children in our generation, they were never taught in a child-friendly way. It was always like the adult way. And so I feel like in our generation, we're now trying to infuse it in a way that a child is developmentally learning, right? They learn through play, they learn through stories, they learn through, movement of their body. So I think it's a different way of exposing our kids. And like same thing, like my dad went on like from watching me kind of do the meditation and stuff, he has opened himself up to meditating. And so it's just beautiful to see how it affects
Oh,
everyone.
that is. I love that. Well, this is really cool. So I know you share a lot on Ayurvedic health,
Mhm.
and I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly.
You are.
Um, and so I went to nutrition school and learned about so many different diets, ways of eating,
Yes.
and ways of wellness. And that one stood out so much to me. It just made so much sense. It was like one of the most logical, like, yes, we do things depending on our personal body type and the season we're living in and, our climate and all of these things. So I don't know if you want to touch on that all today, but I would just really love to open this up to you to share what you'd like. Oh, one other thing I thought of this morning, because I'm getting bombarded with emails from the school district here as
Mhm.
they're trying to figure out how to do school. And so a lot of parents are about to have their kids at home and do homeschool, whether it's homeschool or virtual through their school, but still at home with mom and or dad.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be pretty intense.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, just any kind of help, resets, affirmations, things like that might help us through this next phase.
Yeah, so let's do it like in order because you have so many juicy things that we can dive into. So let's start off first with like the Ayurveda yoga connection because I think that's like the overarching that'll help us understand kind of like my philosophy on how I infuse it, whether it's through motherhood, parenting, or with our children. And so for those of you who don't know what Ayurveda is, but Ayurveda is simply, it's a sister science of yoga. So these two sciences that are originated in India, were meant to be practiced together. And Western world, we know yoga, we've heard about meditation. These are the things that are more commonly aware to us. But Ayurveda, when we think of it, many of us might think, oh, it's related to diet or, foods or, spices or maybe even like skincare regimes. But it's actually a broader principle of understanding the science and wellness of life. So as you mentioned, like the types of foods we eat or what times of day that we go to sleep or eat, or when we actually schedule certain tasks based on the type of energy and what season it is. This is like we're the microcosm of the microcosm and macrocosm. It's like how the rhythms of our body and our mind and our energy is connected to the rhythm of the world in large. And so we essentially have the same energies like earth, fire, wind that's outside in nature are within us too. They play a role. And these three archetypes or doshas are vata, pitta, and kapha. And so the idea of this is that when we understand like our mind body type, as you mentioned, you understand that under what sort of conditions our body gets stressed. When we talk about modern day stress, it's about understanding how to achieve optimal wellness and balance in your mind, body, energy, and spirit. And so I look at it like this way. So the easiest way to kind of understand the mind body types is looking at the characters of Winnie the Pooh. And there's Vata, which is like typically the body type is skinny. And I want you, when I'm explaining it, also think about your kids as well, because your children have a predominant body type and essentially a predominant stress type that they're more inclined to. So just kind of think of your child or yourself when I go through the three different types. And this is a generalization. Obviously, like to know you're in depth, you would go to a practitioner and they would give you, a full real detailed, but I'm giving you like a broad spectrum. So think about, okay, if we're thinking about Vata, Vata is basically wind energy. And typically the body type is thin. They tend to be the ones who are like always cold. Like that's me. Like extremities are always cold. Doesn't matter if it's like 90 degrees outside, you're still like, oh, this is comfortable. Like you're not breaking a sweat or anything. It's just the people who just like having a blanket or like some weight, or and anytime it's too cold, like cold, having wet feet, or like being in cold, rainy weather, it puts them out of balance. Like it makes them feel like it makes your nervous system feel like ungrounded. And so these are the people who are kind of like Tigger. So like when they're in, like they're just like really hyper, they talk really fast, they're like really excited, they're like bouncing, blah, 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 blah. And then when they're imbalanced, the type of stress that Vatas tend to get is it's wind. So it's like there's too much wind energy in your mind. So it's mental stress. It's like the flowing of too many thoughts. It's just that you need to get grounded, right? There's too much energy flowing up here and we need to ground it down. So they're the piglets. They're like so like worried and anxious. What about this? But like, what about this? And they're like future tripping all the time. So that's like an imbalance, like Vata sign. And then the second is Pitta. Pitta is fire. So these individuals tend to run hot. You know, their skin is usually flush. They have prone, like if they're out of balance, you can see like acne, or their skin, you know, gets inflamed. But they are very like short-tempered, quick to get like if they're in hot temperatures too, like they're the ones who will like blow it. That's my son and my husband. So you have to be very mindful that they're like in the summertime, they're not outside in the heat, that they're cool, and they're more prone to emotional stress, which is like anger, frustration, short-temperedness, because there's too much fire that gets ignited. And so you have to cool the body down. So anytime you're feeling angry, impatient, that means that there's a surge of fire within you. And we probably feel that, right? Like the flushness of the face, that image of the fire kind of like coming out of the top of our head. So that's also very important, that even when yourself or your child, like you're noticing that sensation of your nervous system is getting activated in that fight, it's because there's the heat that's like your Agni, or the heat that's at the seat of your belly area. It's basically getting activated and it's like making you feel extra hot. So that's the second type. And so with Winnie the Pooh, that's like Bunny. Remember, like the rabbit is always like very biting, critical, like, you know, they're the ones who are so present that they're not aware of like what they say and how like other people will receive it. Like they're just the curt, opinionated, kind of blunt people, and there's like no awareness of like the consequences of their words when they're out of balance. And then the third is Kapha. So Kapha tends to be like Winnie the Pooh when they're in balance. They're like, you know, happy and jolly. They've got a little bit, you know, they might be a little bit extra like weight on them, but they feel good. They have good endurance. Interestingly enough, honey is actually really good for Kapha, but Kapha is earth energy. So it's like you're stable, you're grounded, you're, you know, you're rooted in yourself, you're happy. So, you know, that's the sign of when you're out of balance. That's when you're in balance. And when you're out of balance, it's physical stress. So you're tired, lethargic, depressed. So that is like the ultimate Eeyore, like constantly moping and slow. And, you know, there's like, you only want to eat Netflix. You only want to watch Netflix and chill and eat a tub of ice cream. Like you're just lethargic, unmotivated, lazy. So that's like when your earth energy is like out of balance and you need to bring more energy or revitalization into you. And the reason I share that in such detail is because this actually, when I was doing my Ayurveda yoga training, is that you understand that yoga it's a science that when you're experiencing a certain type of imbalance, there's certain yoga poses and breaths and, you know, different meditations that are going to help you get in balance based on the 3 different types of stress that you have. And so when it's in my book, like we have exercise in there, but also when I teach parents, is that starting to become aware of the physical signs of just, and also checking in, like, am I experiencing mental stress? Like, am I anxious and overthinking? That means I need to get grounded. Am I like experiencing emotional stress? Like, am I getting heated, angry, annoyed, frustrated? Because there's a different levels of sets of skills that you need to do. Or am I feeling tired, groggy, unmotivated, just lethargic? Then there's other sets of tools and resets that we do.
Wow. 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 Okay. Thank you for sharing all of that. That was super interesting and really, really helpful because I've seen different things that are like, take a test to see what your type is, but a lot of it seems based on, are you skinny, medium, or large, And I'm like, I don't know. What day of the week is it? Like, that doesn't help.
Yeah.
So this is really, really helpful. And just thinking about it right now, I feel like my kids and I are all different ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel really, I resonate with the Vata. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely, everyone who knows me knows I'm always cold. I take all these extra jackets everywhere. And so and excited and just, um, but also I like the mental stress part, knowing where the imbalance is. And I've been going through that lately. This week I made a list of everything I'm committed to with the goal of stepping back from a few, because I became like this yes man during COVID. And normally I've been so good about saying no to anything that I'm not super excited about. And I just felt too much of a overwhelming urge to help everyone, and it became too much. And so when I'm stressed, it's always up here. I feel I'm like, my brain is overloaded, it's overwhelmed. I have to turn it off. How do I turn it off? So I can't wait to dive more into how to get grounded for each of these types. And I
Yeah.
feel like my son would be Pitta.
Mm-hmm.
He's like your son. We've talked about our Aries kids. But yeah, the very fiery, and he's so emotional. He's like
Mm-hmm.
so emotional. So it's been a trip for us to try to learn how to help him, balance his emotions. And then Jazz, who's just like the chillest of the chill. The kapha is so her, oh my God. Yeah. And I wonder, how often these do line up with people's astrological signs. Um,
I
you know,
wonder.
I I have a lot of fire, but I'm way more of the wind one. But
Yeah.
my son is a fire sign, and he sounds like the fire one. And my daughter's an earth sign, and
Wow.
she's a Taurus, and so it kind of lines up with a lot of that stuff too. But the physical stress, and one thing I learned with her is if she's upset or if she's just acting just off and kind of strange, if I hold her, or now she's big, I can't hold her the same, but I'm just snuggle with her. It's like everything turns around really quickly. And with
Mm-hmm.
my son, he needs to be alone for 5 or 10 minutes, and then he like regulates himself. So just figuring all this out, and I think a lot of parents have kids that are very different from each other, and it's just such a wild challenge. So yeah.
This kind of gives a little, because we always wonder, right? We always say, like, oh, how can two kids come from the same parents be so totally different? This gives us some awareness of why that is, because all these energy, it doesn't mean like, if we predominantly, like me and you, relate more to Vata, that we don't have Pitta imbalances or like emotional stress or physical stress.
Sure.
It just means that we're more inclined to potentially our nervous system is more inclined to respond to stressors in this one way, but we all experience all of it in our own capacity in different proportion and different proportions. But it just gives us all, like right now you have a lot more awareness of your child and what their tendencies are, and then this is the basics, and then there's so many different levels of like body temperature to food to like all those different other elements that go in with it as well.
Wow, wow. Well, that's really exciting. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about just mindfulness. So some of these have almost become just like these popular terms, and I don't know that all of us really know what they mean exactly, mindfulness versus meditation versus stress relief, anxiety relief. Like, is there a big difference? And if so, what is it?
Yeah, I think you're right. These buzzwords that have kind of become mainstream, a lot of times, especially with the words that we talk about mindfulness and meditation, people think that they're interchangeable, and though there are overlaps in mindfulness and meditation, they're not exactly the same thing. And especially if we're trying to infuse this in our children's life, it's really important to kind of get an idea of what these ideas are. So I always like to give analogies, and because I think it's easier to understand, but also I like to explain it in ways that, like, if you're teaching your children, because it makes it so much easier to then understand for ourselves. So we start with mindfulness. Mindfulness is essentially learning how to focus and pay attention to what you're doing right here and right now. And so, like, when I'm teaching children, it's like, when you read, you're just reading, or when you eat, you're just eating, or when you play, you're just playing. So it's whatever that you're doing, anytime, anywhere, eyes open, eyes closed, you're bringing your full attention to that moment. So a lot of times we talk about, like, mindful eating, or, just being mindful when you're doing your work. So a lot of times it's like you're doing something, but you're bringing your attention to it. And so, like I said, you can do that anytime, anywhere. There's you could do it when you're driving, there's no confines to it. You're just bringing that awareness to your day-to-day life. Meditation, though there's we hear mindfulness meditation and things like that. Meditation is a more formal, seated practice of where you're not doing anything. So like I said, we could do mindful eating or mindful driving or mindful listening because you're doing something actively. But meditation is you're bringing your active focus on meditation. So what you're doing essentially in that moment is you're practicing meditation, or you're setting the intention to practice meditation. So it's essentially, what I look at meditation, it's a formal way of learning how to harness and build your mindfulness muscle. And so, there's so many different types of meditation out there, and I want to actually talk about this because I think there's a big myth about what's the entry point of meditation. So a lot of us think, when we think of meditation, is that quintessential sitting quietly, eyes closed, taking deep breaths, having to be silent. Your mind needs to be silent. Your thoughts need to shut off. And I equate this type of meditation, this whole mindfulness meditation, this is more like the CrossFit of meditation. So it's certainly a type of meditation. However, you would never tell someone who's never worked out a single day in their life, you know what, we're going to start you in a CrossFit class. Because if you did that to someone who's never had any experience working out, they're gonna either give up before they actually experience the benefit because it's just way too difficult. They don't have the stamina endurance for it. And that's the same thing with passive meditation. This idea of learning how to focus on your breath and learning to start slowing down your thoughts by focusing on your mind. That's very difficult for someone who's never been trained to learn how to slow down. And especially for everyone in our fast-paced life, if you're on technology, if you're working on computers, if you're living this modern day life and you're okay, I want to start meditating, it's going to be really hard to make that leap to just start with, I'm going to start by focusing on my breath and closing my mind, because that's when we get, this is too hard, this is too frustrating, I can't do this is not for me. So to avoid that, where the starting point, whether you're a child or someone who's new to meditation, is this category called active meditation. And active meditation is essentially different types of meditations that train your brain to focus on one thing at a time, because it's much easier to learn to focus on one thing than nothing, which is what passive meditation is trying to help you do. And don't get me wrong, passive meditation is something that certainly has many benefits and you can work your way up to there. But when you're starting to train your brain, it's much easier when you have meditations that have a mental anchor already placed into it. So a lot of people, like myself, for example, I started off years ago with guided meditation because you're learning to mindfully, you're listening to someone's voice that's guiding you. So your mind has something to focus on. As you know, I'm a Kundalini yoga and meditation teacher. and many of the meditation, majority I should say, are active. Like you're moving your body in a certain way, you're doing a certain breath type, your mind is activated in some way, or maybe it's an affirmation or a mantra. It's engaging your mind to focus on something. So it's not just like, okay, let's be silent, but it's training yourself that when you start like focusing on your breath or an affirmation, physiologically, your nervous system starts to slow down. And once your body and your breath start to slow down, your mind will automatically start to slow down. So you don't have to try to beat the mind at the mind's game. It's like learning to feel the cues in your body and slowing down these cues, that when that starts happening, your body is automatically going to have your mind start slowing down. So I look at it in this way. When you're starting off, like the idea of meditation, like many of us have a mind, like if we equate our mind or thoughts to cars, we basically, many of us have like, our mind is like Friday night traffic. Like it's like constantly like rush hour traffic in our minds, so many thoughts, so many things. And like when we try to do passive meditation, it's like jumping out into like the freeway on Friday night traffic and be like, okay, let's stop. You're going to get plummeted because they're just coming too much at a force. So the idea of meditation is trying to create an experience of 2 a.m. traffic on a Tuesday night. So if you think about 2 a.m. traffic on a Tuesday night, it's not that there's no cars on the street or there's no thoughts. It's just that there's a lot more space, and it's like there's cars, but you're like, okay, they're just like kind of flowing. And so that's what whether I'm teaching a mom or a dad or I'm teaching kids, that's what it's like, creating that experience of using their body or their breath or an affirmation to train them to create 2 a.m. traffic on a Tuesday night.
Wow. Okay. I love those analogies. And that is really helpful. It's really helpful to think of things in that way. And I still vividly remember a lot of the mindfulness practices you taught me and taught us in the Mindful Mama group. And you're right, there was always a few elements, and none of them were difficult. Again, that's why all these things are called a practice. You have to just remember to use them and continue to do so. But there's a lot of mudras, you would have our hands do something specific and breathe in a specific way. And all of that just really helped anchor into that moment. And so that's beautiful. I mean, now I'm pretty good at meditation, like passive meditation, but however many years ago this was, I'm trying to remember how long ago we did this together. I don't know, 5 years or something.
Yeah, probably 5 years ago. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. And I couldn't have done the type of meditation I do now then. There's just no way. And I was so scattered, so you really helped give me a lot of little things, and even the mindfulness techniques of just switching up my breathing and of tapping on my chest if I'm stressed in traffic, all these different little things that have stuck with me ever since. And
and they were all active. And it's the same thing. Like now, so many years later, like I can sit and do a passive meditation practice. However, I can't do one every single day because your energy and your energy shifts day to day, moment to moment. So there's certain days that I'm like, oh, I definitely need to like ground. I'm feeling anxious. I need to ground it out before I could even, like be able to sit still to allow any silence in my mind. So I want to just share with anyone who's like new, it's like, it's a practice even for someone who's been doing it for many years, because you're meeting the moment and the day, like just your energy of where you are on that day, and it could be different. And so I know for a long time I had this misconception my meditation practice needed to be regimented and it needed to look like in a specific way every single day. And now I'm so much more free flowing. Like, what do I feel inspired? Like, what do I need today? Like, what kind of stress am I experiencing? And what's the breath reset or the yoga movements that I need? And so it's very fluid. There's no like rigidity or that perfectionism involved in it. It's just like being more just aware of what you need in a moment.
Yeah. And I like that you keep saying moment. And that was a big shift for me once I became a mom was, and I would get discouraged early on because a lot of these people I was following who had these beautiful practices, they didn't have kids, and they would talk about every morning, I've got this routine and I spend 30 minutes journaling and drinking tea and meditating. And I'm like, first thing in the morning, I have 2 kids jumping on my face. It's like, that doesn't feel like an option to me. And it was discouraging. So I thought, well, I guess I can't do this, maybe in 10 or 20 years. And so, you and then Rebecca Barecki was also really helpful. She's got 5 kids, and
Yeah.
she wrote a book, You Have 4 Minutes to Change Your Life, which helped me shift that as well. And all of your practices that were all, I could do them for 2 or 3 minutes. I could
Yep.
get in my car, I could go in the bathroom and close the door and have a 2 to 5 minute reset essentially
Yeah.
throughout the day. And so I didn't have to have that 20-minute morning thing. I still don't have that, but that's okay now. And I
Yeah.
can find those moments.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's actually those systematic resets, like recognizing and tuning in. And I want to go through some of these because we keep talking about resets. I definitely want to explain and share some, like what we talk about, like what to practice. But bathroom is like, especially like having, like, I have a 5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. My 1.5-year-old is like attached to me, like to my butt, and is like, sometimes the bathroom is like the only place that I'm like, okay, I can have a moment to myself. And I do like tons of resets there, which may sound crazy, but it's actually quite beneficial. So I want to share some, if that's cool, like
Oh,
so that
please.
Okay.
Yeah, please do.
So I want to cover the 3 like areas that we just talked about, so that everyone kind of has something that they can take away. So mental stress, emotional stress, and physical stress. So one of the things that I do is like help getting to that practice. So when I teach kids, it's like your, your head engine, your heart engine, and your belly engine. It's like, even when you wake up in the morning, just taking like a quick, like, okay, does any of my engines need to be refueled, or is anything like, feeling, like depleted? Because that's really important before you can even know like which meditation or breathing or yoga or anything is going to help you. You just have to be aware of like, this is where I'm feeling right now. Like I'm feeling a lot of like anxiety or mental stress, or I'm feeling like my like emotion, like frustrated or annoyed, or if I'm feeling like tired or depleted or lethargic or sad. So that's the first thing. And so with the mental stress or anxiety, like I mentioned, essentially what's happening is that the energy that should be at your hips in your belly area is now risen and is at your head. So from an energetic standpoint, the goal is to move the energy down. And so a lot of times when people say like, oh, like when I sit down to meditate or to breathe or take a reset, I just have to, like, it's just too hard. Like I get fidgety. Whenever you like in Kundalini yoga, I thought this was fascinating. I never knew this before, but you always do yoga before you meditate. So if you're someone who like, I want to sit and meditate, but like, I just can't get calm. Like I feel like anytime I sit down, I'm fidgety, or like I get this impulse to like, oh, I have to do this. I have to do this. I always suggest for anyone who has that is that means that there's some stagnant energy within you that needs to be rooted out before you can sit. So whether it's like someone, like if you enjoy exercise, it means that try after you've exerted energy out of your body, and then try sitting still for like a meditation practice. If you're someone like, you could do like a few like yoga, like sun salutations, I feel like are the best to like start grounding energy up. But if you whatever you feel comfortable with, whether it's a walk or something, get energy out before you try to sit still. And this is what I call, like, for kids, I say it's like you're brushing your brain. It's like your self-care, your mental health practice of like meditation is like 3 to 5 minutes of like you like setting the intention that I'm going to sit and kind of do a breath, or just like to do an active meditation. And so for active meditation or a breathing reset, you can do it for whatever. For anxiety, the important thing is that when you breathe, that you're inhaling through your nose and then you're exhaling through your mouth, with the exhaling feeling longer than your inhale. So anything that I teach, whether it's a reset or a meditation, a reset means, like I said, you can do it anytime, anywhere. You can do it like if you're cooking or if you're washing the dishes, your eyes can be open. It's a mindful reset, and you're doing that breath to kind of root yourself down and ground yourself. This is really important because your exhale out is what notifies and signals to your fight or flight, that to your rest and response system, that, oh, your nervous system is calm, it's safe. And your inhale, the quality of your inhale is what triggers your amygdala or your fight or flight. Like if it's a shallow breath, that's what puts your body on high alert. So learning, like if you're noticing, okay, I'm feeling a little heady, it's like, okay, start doing the breath to start slow yourself down because it's too much energy. So then the idea is that you want to start moving energy down. So another thing that I do is like, I like to do the thymus gland tap. So there's a gland here that if you gently tap on this space and take slow, deep breaths, it starts, one, I think it builds awareness to get heart centered. So you're now bringing energy down into your body. But this gland secretes hormones that starts letting your nervous system know that it's okay to relax and your mind can start calming down. So tapping on this space, and I like to do that. I like to do the breath wherever I am. And then I will start tapping on my heart because this gives me the signal and the awareness that I have to start moving energy down. So then I start doing that. And then the last thing that I do to help me like to finish off that set is do a forward bend. So wherever you're like whether you're standing or you're sitting and laying like on the ground, standing up and doing a forward bend where you're touching your feet if you can, but just like letting the energy out, because that's starting to root out whatever energy that was in your mind. It's starting to ground yourself out. So that yoga posture is like extremely beneficial to start moving the energy that's from your head out of your head and back into your body, and you rooted it into your body. So that's like what I share 3 different ones because you can use them as standalones, or you can use them like together. Like if you're like, okay, I have like 15 minutes that I can like use, like if you want to do it as like a yoga meditation session, you can do like 3 minutes of each, or do like, each exercise that can actually be a set for you to be like, okay, this is going to ground out my anxiety. For your emotional stress, so for anger, the whole important thing is that you have to cool your body down. Your body has now like, it's going in haywire because there's too much heat in it. So before you can have a conversation or do anything, you need to start cooling it down. One of the best things that I think that you could do is that go to the bathroom and run cold water on your wrist points. And if you just roll cold water, immediately you'll notice that your body temperature starts to cool down again. It is so surreal how quickly that happens by just putting water on your wrist points. If it's available to you to put water on your face, that's even better. And like water back here, that's also another place where if you put cool water here, it's gonna root your body down. So for your son, for example, like if he's like really, really like overheated, if you teach him like, okay, just go run your hands under cool water, and like, you'll notice that it'll start cooling his body down. So he'll be able to reset and come back to normal. And of course, like, I don't recommend, like Ayurveda doesn't recommend drinking cold ice water on a lot of occasions, but in the event that like you're really overheated, drinking cold ice water can also just like quickly, I wouldn't recommend too much of it, but just, it will quickly let your system know that to cool down. And like the breath for that, like, so if you're not around water, or if you're not around anywhere, the breath that helps your body naturally regulate its temperature is Sitali breath. So it's like breathing in through your mouth like a straw, so like an O breath in, and then exhaling out through your nose. So it's a different breath type that you do. So it's like, and you could do the breath like I do wherever you are, like you do a reset for like 1 to 3 minutes, and that will start helping like slowing your breath down and cooling your body down. And when you take the breath in, you'll actually also feel like it's cool on the way in. So that's for like emotional stress. Those are a couple different resets that you can do. And then for physical stress, that's like when you have too much energy, like grounded energy, like it's that sluggish feeling, you need energy to come up. And so I know that you're a big dance party person, but that is actually the best thing for kappas because it moves energy up. And if you can't do like a dance party, really anytime your hands are above your head, like, so a lot of times like there's like, if you have music on and you put music on and you bring your hands above your head and you shake your hands, energy is starting to rise. So like any sort of like energizing squat pose is like, it's like bringing energy and then jumping up. So like we do like rocket ship in the book, it's like rocket ship. So you're squatting down and then you're boosting energy up. So you're like jumping up. Jumping jacks actually are really good for kapha to bring that energy up. So basically thinking like, you know, rebounding, like jumping on a trampoline, you're bringing energy up. That's gonna help you. But in any event, like if you just put some music on, bring your hands above your head for just 3 minutes, just shake your hands above your head or shake your body. That's going to reset your nervous system, and that you'll feel like that energy and the reinvigoration back into your body.
Wow. Ooh. Thank you. That was so
Yeah.
many good tips. I might need to go through and like make note by note. That you are Vata. You're talking fast and giving us a lot of exciting information.
Yes, I know. You know, it's like I have so much to say. It's so little time, but I want like everyone to kind of have for each just an awareness. And all of this actually is in the book. All of it is like broken up. Like so each chapter I've divided into mental stress. I didn't say it's mental stress, but say like find your focus is all about mental stress, because it's all so every exercise in there, from the yoga poses to the affirmations to the breath. And that's why I designed the book to be like that, because it is for parents and children who are not aware of like how this is all comes into play. So chapter 1, the exercise with like steer your ship, and the one with like the reset of like understanding like your, you know, your head button or your heart button or your belly engine, like that's all teaching your children the same thing that I'm teaching in a kid friendly way. So all the ones with the heart chapter in is all these exercises are in there, and then the ones with like the physical stress ones, they're all in there as well too. So it is available in the book if you guys are interested in doing it with your kids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Highly recommend. And I'll definitely make sure they have all the links to find all of your great work. And so before we go, if you're willing, there's just one more thing I was hoping to help people with, which was maybe a mindful meditation or something that I know you had one that you taught me to do at bedtime to kind of calm down. I think just anxiety is so high with all the uncertainty lately. Are you willing, or can you think of one to share?
Do you want to do like a guided meditation? What do you want to do? Because I'm open to doing, like, do you want me to do a guided meditation? I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head
Yeah,
that I can.
sorry. Don't mean to put you on the spot, but
No, that's okay. I'm trying to think
well,
of.
and so there was this evening meditation. I'm trying to remember, I don't remember all of the details, but there was definitely a breathing pattern, and it was really to kind of slow down, like you suggested doing it in bed, like sitting up on bed before going to sleep, to sort of just slow the system down. I believe there was something I was doing with my hands, but there was just a really calming one.
I've taught in so many meditations.
I'm sure you
I
have.
can't remember exactly which one that was, but I'm trying to think of a meditation that I can do that is from the book, that is like it's like a guided meditation that we can do together. If you're open to that, we can do that then.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. All right. So allow yourself to be in a comfortable seated position. If you're sitting on a chair, allow your feet to be flat on the ground with your spine nice and straight. Resting your hands on your lap with your palms facing up. Closing your eyes. And taking a deep breath in through your nose. And gently exhaling your breath out of your mouth. Another deep breath in through your nose. And exhaling again through your mouth, nice and slow, with the exhale being longer than the inhale. So one more time, inhaling deeply in through your nose. And slowly exhale that breath out through your mouth. And at this moment, just be aware of your mind and the energy in your mind. Does it feel calm, like a quiet, starry night? Cool, gentle? Or does it feel more active, like a stormy, thundering, windy hurricane? Just be presently aware of the energy in your mind at the moment. And whatever it is, just allow yourself to envision yourself to jump on a magic carpet that's going to guide you up high into the sky. So as you rise higher, noticing the space of where your mind was it calm or was it more active? And just rising up a little bit higher, going higher and higher until you find yourself on your magic carpet, sitting in complete awareness in the quietness of space. And as you look down to where you were just at, mentally, emotionally, and physically, you realize that there's a distance between how you felt and where you are right now. So as you surround yourself with the quietness and the silence of space, just taking a moment to breathe in slowly in through your nose and breathe out even slower out through your mouth. In this space of quietness, in this space of silence, this is the realm where all your solutions are found. So embrace yourself into the moment. And as you bask in this peace, know that you can carry this peace back into your day-to-day life and moment. So taking in one more deep breath in, deep breath out, and gently guide your magic carpet back into the space, coming back to the earth, back into this moment, back to wherever you are right now as you listen to my voice. And before you open your eyes, just remember to carry that peace that you experienced back into this reality and into this moment. When you're ready, you can re-enter into this moment, into a new level of peace.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
And I appreciate too that wasn't an incredibly long guided meditation. Because again, just the discouragement I felt for all those early parenting years that I just felt like I couldn't do these things with kids. And so what you just did, that feels like something too to tap into in the shower or taking a bath, or I mean, I don't know if it's safe to meditate in the bath. I think so. But, just have it, just a little moment. I think it's so important. I just really am just so passionate about making sure parents know that they can tap in. And again, going back to, our kids are just looking to guidance from us. I mean, it's way less about what we're telling them to do or what we're saying. They're just copying what we're doing all the time, for better or worse, And so I kind of switched focus to just carving out my own meditation time. And if they ever want to come in, they can, and it turns silly and goofy, and that's fine. And then they leave whenever they get bored, and just making that like, okay, perfect. What you just did was perfect, So yeah, I'm just so thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You
You're so
shared so many amazing things. I have like a whole page of notes here.
I know. I'm such a nerd with like giving a lot of information because I think information is power. And I think the more you know about your connection, I think the gift that we have with our mind, our body, our soul, it's a divine technology. It's just that many of us it's kind of like having a car with no instruction manuals and not knowing, like, every time you turn the steering wheel to the right, it turns left. Like, you're using this car, but it's just not working the way that you want it to work. And that's largely how I think up until this point, our mind, our body, our emotions, it's been kind of running like this car without instructions, and we don't know how to use it. So for me, it's like very important that people start understanding how to build those connections and understand how to use this divine technology that we've been given, because it will carry us through any sort of pandemic type of uncertainties, catalyst, change, growth, loss, anything that we're going to experience in this life. And I just want to quickly mention, because I know that you had asked this and we didn't touch upon it, but I think that right now with the pandemic and having kids home, you did mention it's really, really challenging. However, I think it's a great opportunity that we probably would never have had, of understanding, like, teaching our children how to infuse these resets into their life. And so I've been teaching so many parents, like, the focus your mind section in the book is like, letting your children understand not to work themselves to the point of burnout, or when they're feeling distracted, being aware of that and learning resets to help them, developmentally learn, like, okay, I need to reset my mind, and these are ways that I can do it. I think that's a invaluable lesson that we can teach them, rather than getting into the place that we are, where we're like in burnout mode. We're like pushing ourselves to focus, work, do, to the point that our body needs a break. So we can teach our children all these tools. And I would suggest that now that schedules are a little bit more lax, if they're learning from home, use this opportunity to infuse and plant the seeds of, mindful resets, meditation, because, it's not available in all schools and things like that now. So just find the silver lining, I think, of that opportunity that we have to plant these seeds in their mind and their daily schedule.
Yes, that's a great idea. And I've been talking a lot on a personal level about the opportunities that this time has brought just for my own, like, spiritual growth and healing. It's been really incredible. But I hadn't thought about it that much. Right now is just phasing into this new school phase. But I love that, because not only do we have that opportunity, we also have the opportunity to hang out with our kids, and I feel like a lot of parents might quickly shift to, like, I gotta work, and put them in front of a screen too to do their work. And we've fought screens pretty hard, and we will continue to, but not 100%. But we want the kids to play. Like, kids learn so much playing outside, and so I think just for ourselves as parents to find more presence.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have a focus app on my phone called Forest, and I like grow trees, and I can't like do anything else on my phone for however long I've allotted. And I have a little note that if I pick up my phone, it says play with jazz and lyric. And I'm like, okay. We're just all addicted to our phones. It's so hard. And, but my kids want to play with me. They want my attention and my presence.
Mm-hmm.
So I also can't really imagine, at least at their age, that the actual amount of schoolwork they have is going to take much time in the day.
Yeah.
So, having like a meditation corner time and making a little schedule at home. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we've got a drum set and all kinds of amps and guitars set up, having their music time, and just making it all fun. So yeah, that it is an opportunity. You're right. It's not just us parents tearing our hair out, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me and for sharing all of this. And I will make sure everyone knows where to find you, because you're constantly sharing really helpful tips on your Instagram page. And I know you have a lot of different things to offer us. Your 7-day, I don't know if you're still doing this, but that you had a 7-day stress.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I did that years ago. It was really great. So, I mean, you have so much content and so many new things that, I haven't seen yet. So I'm just excited. And thank you again for your book. It's really blessed my family. So
I'm so
I
glad.
think you're amazing. So thank you, Tejal, and I
You're
hope you have a
welcome.
wonderful day.
Bye. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.